Welcome to A Real Point of View. This is our second episode for the evening, in a continuation from our earlier episode. And Karen was talking about this wonderful movie. And what was the name of it again, Karen?
Flower Drum Song.
Our Drum Song.
Right. And anyway, there are a lot of comedic hijinks and great dance numbers because this was 1960s and we're kind of at the tail end, but still within like the what I would call the heyday of like movie musicals. It was definitely the tail end, but the big dance numbers. There's a big like dance number that Nancy Kwan leads about being a dancer in the Kitty Cat Club, and that's like a lot of fun. There's one of my favorite songs in the movie is 100 Million Miracles, where they talk about, the whole point of the song is just to mention these things that we need to appreciate and that are often taken for granted, like, I don't know, the weather, miracle of weather, and how amazing it is when it rains or snows or the sun is out or the rainbows or whatever it is. And I've always loved Nancy Kwan's like showstopper of a number, I Enjoy Being a Girl. And she just talks about all the great things about being a girl. And it's 1961, so what she mentions about being a girl has absolutely nothing to do with like using your brain or, fleeing the atom or being an astronaut. It has to do with,
Right.
waiting for the guy to come pick you up for a date and, spending all day in the bathtub and, and looking really cute, stuff like that. But it's like a lot of fun because even if you are like a PhD astrophysicist, you still enjoy being a girl. So, I'm a girl. I went to law school. I still enjoy being a girl.
Right.
It's a lot. It's just like stuff like that is a lot of fun. And the other person who's in this movie, who I have adored. I've had a crush on this man. He's dead now, but I had a crush on him for a long time, and that is James Shigeta, who plays the upstanding, forthright, pillar of the community person who's a much better match for Miyoshi Umeki than James Stu could ever be on his best day. But James Shigeta is like the catch, he's like the guy you really go for. But he was in a television series that went into syndication in the 60s, but it actually dated back to the 50s, and it originated in Japan. It was called Starman. And
yes.
The Starman, he had on the cheesiest like star outfit. Like,
I do remember
it
that.
looked like a puffy star thing. And I just, oh my God, I was so in love with Star. I would just move heaven and earth as a toddler to watch Starman. I just thought it was the most amazing show I had ever seen. And so I never forgot him from that. And then, when Flower Drum Song came along, it was just a real treat to see him. But he's a consummate actor, James Shigeta. It's just a consummate actor. And it's just done so many great things. But one of the best things is Flower Drum Song. And it's just it's very much of a feel-good movie. It's like, even with, after all the, people get confused or they're shocked or whatever about who really should be marrying who, they all come together. And it's a beautiful movie to watch, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
It's a very different film. And as you were talking about this film, about Flower Drum Song, it reminded me of a very different, one of my favorite feel-good movies ever done, Billy Wilder film. And if you don't know who Billy Wilder is, I know you do, but if our viewers don't know who Billy Wilder is, they really should, take a look at his filmography, because it's simply some of the best films ever made. But he did this one film called Kiss Me Stupid. I've talked about it before, but it stars Ray Walston and and uh, and uh, and Dean Martin, and it is a brilliant film. Kim Novak is in it. Um, it's about the local piano player Ray Walston, who's got a strong jealous streak, and he and his buddy who runs the local auto garage, their dream is to write a big hit song. And in comes Dean Martin, Dino, and his car breaks down. And they decide to scheme to get Dean Martin to listen to their song. Anyway, without going into how the whole story of the film, it's a wonderful film, yeah, at the end of the film, and at the end of the film, you feel really good about yourself, about the movie you just saw, and gosh darn it, I think I'll go and eat a pizza. You know, really, it's marvelous of a film.
You know, I like Ray Walston. I liked him in South Pacific, and I liked him in the TV show My Favorite Martian. I loved.
Martian.
Yeah, that was a great show back in the day. I like this. I have the film. We talked about sports a little bit, but it has sports as one of the actors in the film in a way, but the film is more about family and you know how sometimes you can't really talk to family, and even though you want to talk to family, you want to be a part of family, and it doesn't always work out that way. But somehow, something in the cosmos brings you together, brings back, or presents something to where you can actually have the experience, even though you may not have had that opportunity. And that's Field of Dreams.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Love that movie. And it talks about fulfilling different parts of a dream or a fantasy, or fulfilling the part of the reality that was missed or unable to be fulfilled, and giving you that opportunity once again to feel that essence of family and love and togetherness that you might have missed. But what I wanted to talk about Field of Dreams was, there's this family that is dealing with this, building this field, and they will come is the moniker in the movie, and all these famous baseball players come to this field, and they're historically baseball players who have passed away and all that good stuff. But the irony here is the only people that see them initially is the guy who builds the field. And then he starts to get other people who are starting to see this, and it's mostly his family. And then this one friend, which is James Earl Jones. Kevin Costner's the guy who builds the field, and James Earl Jones, he also comes to see these people. But the one person who doesn't see it, who thinks it's crazy, and he thinks his family is going crazy, is his brother-in-law. Kevin Costner's brother-in-law can't seem to get it. And everyone sees it, and he's like, you guys, what is going on? What's wrong with you? Why'd you build this field? On and on and on. And so he's talking to his niece, and she's like, yeah, I see everybody. He said, you see people? There's nobody there. Until the cars start coming. And people are seeing it, and they're starting to come, and he's like, who are these people? Why are they all here? And he finally sees the people.
Well, and when he sees the people, when the what's his name? What's the actor's name? The guy who plays the doctor.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's okay, Corral, help me here. Not Kirk Douglas. It's
Kirk Douglas.
It's not Kirk Douglas. It's,
he's the guy who played in a
he's Wyatt Earp.
The enemy beneath. He played the He played the captain in that. No,
He's Wyatt. He's Wyatt Earp.
right.
It's
James Garner?
Burt
No,
Lancaster.
no.
Burt Lancaster.
Burt
Thanks,
Lancaster.
Steve.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster.
He plays Doc, Doc something in the movie.
Yeah, and
That's
when
right.
Doc, as a
Moonlight.
little kid, goes on over to to help the little girl with her choking with the hot dog, and then the second he steps over the white line, the first base line, suddenly Doc appears right in front of the brother-in-law,
Right.
Mhm.
and saves the little girl. And it's at that point then
He says,
brother-in-law
"Where did
can
all those
see
baseball
the kid."
players come from?"
That's right.
Yeah, that's a cool.
Definitely a feel-good movie.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
But
And-
it's a quirky moment sometimes that make it even more fun.
Right.
Mhm.
It's easy to pick a lot of sports movies because they do that. There's a lot of sports movies end up feel good films.
The one thing about sports movies that makes some more feel good than others is the ones that are based on true stories.
Mhm.
I feel like Hoosiers, Rudy. One of my favorites is The Greatest Game Ever Played, which is a
Golf.
golfing game. It's so based. Hollywood does Hollywood type things, and sometimes things are closer than they appear, but that doesn't mean the ending changed. It doesn't
Right.
mean that the guy that you wanted to be the hero wasn't the hero. So it makes it feel so much better when you know that person actually did overcome odds.
And you're right, because not because, but when we see a film like that, like Hoosiers, like Rudy, we know what the outcome is.
Mhm.
Like earlier in the last segment, when we talked about Miracle, we know what the outcome is, but this gives us an emotional connection
Mhm.
to the people who made it happen,
Mhm.
and we share in their or in what the film portrays as their journey. And remember, never let the facts get in the way of telling a good story.
Right.
Yeah, really, seriously. Don't.
When they stay true to enough of the story, like for instance the ending,
Mhm.
it really helps us, and it helps us process that, and then maybe we can learn something from it too, and get on with our day, maybe with a little kick in our step.
Mhm.
Another great athletic sports film that does that is Chariots of Fire.
Mhm.
Along with the Vangelis score in the background. It's an incredible film that really it really is very uplifting and very, very full of promise.
I can
And it
think of
just
two
seems
movies.
like such a simple story too. I remember going to see Chariots of Fire in the movies, and I love saying that movie's going to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. And my friends thought I'd lost my mind. I'm like, watch, it will,
And it did.
and it did.
And one of the interesting things, and it's based on reality. It's based on something that happened.
Yes, it is.
One of the interesting things on how they chose to tell that story. It's very, very interesting. They take it right from the Bible, and they take it and you can take the major characters. Each of them has a biblical presence.
Right.
You have the Jew who's judged with the law. You have the Samaritan, the Lord. You have the Christian being judged
The missionary, the devout Catholic.
right. He's actually I think he was Scottish Rite Temple, but he was he's being judged through Christ, and then you had the scribe,
Yeah, the person who
and-
writes down their stories.
right, and and how they chose to give us all of their stories, you know, underneath the umbrella of the with just enough biblical reference through one character. The biblical references come from the Eric Little character, and
Right.
but that's enough that if you know what the New Testament's doing, you see it, and you see how each character has been developed. Very, very well written story.
It's also poignant to me. I think when the film opens, you have like the scribe person who starts telling the story. He's in a pulpit, and he starts talking because they're at a funeral for one of the members of the team who's just died, I believe.
Yes.
But he, I think it's like right before or right around World War II. So the irony is that, I mean, when they were at their prime as runners, it was right before World War One. And then you've got like this really poignant situation where these old men are talking about what they went through to chase this thing that just seems so simple, which is just, running as fast as possible and just devoting yourself to that above all else. And you've got the shadow of another world war. So I love this movie. I loved it when I saw it when it first came out, and I've loved it ever since. I love the music. I thought the music was amazing. It was like one of the first times I remember the score just perfectly complementing the action in the movie. It just seemed to evoke it. The music was iconic. I mean, Vangelis, became like a thing, or became like the it guy, for like a week or so after the movie came out, and then he went back to not being the it guy. But
and one of the and there's a point in the film near the end, in that final race that Little runs, when he's going through his head, the different conversations he had, and then when he goes to this point where he goes, "Yeah, I know God made me for a purpose, but He also made me fast," and then he goes, "And when I run, I feel His pleasure through me," and then he sticks his head back, opens his mouth, and then the cue music. That is such a powerful moment, and such a great feel-good moment too.
Right, yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, great choice.
Speaking of sports movies, two came to mind real quickly. Not necessarily so much feel good, just as Steve was alluding to before, and I guess all of you, about films that are based off of and or portray real people, real characters, going through things and coming out on the other side, hopefully. And one of those is Remember the Titans is one of them, with Denzel Washington, and then the other is We Are Marshall with Matthew McConaughey. So these are real life things that have occurred, real people that lived, and real people that, had horrific, in some cases, things happen, or just very negative things occur, and we're able to come out on the other side of that in a positive way. Love those kind of movies too.
Like McFarlane USA, very similar.
That's a good movie. Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Running again in that one. So yeah, ironically. But yeah, there's some. The one cool thing about this whole film genre is that there are so many wonderful films, and so many films that are dedicated to possibly just to uplift us and make us feel better. But also too, in the realms of the films that are just the films for what they are, we can find those same sentiments through our paying attention to the details and seeing things in them, i.e. like that moment in Scrooge for me. Despite all the other things that were going on around, that for me was the most poignant and most fulfilling moment. And you can find those moments in so many films.
And I think that's true. I think that, and we all have our favorites, but I think that everybody has favorite moments in films, something that really speaks to them, and it's very powerful for them. And many of us share that same moment, and some people have their own, and that is absolutely fantastic that we can do that. It is really quite brilliant when you come to think of it, that these movie makers, these filmmakers, can find a moment that's so powerful that people are going to remember it and talk about it and take it with them wherever they go. And I think that's a very important part of our conversation we're having tonight.
I agree. Any other cool movies out there that, you know what about what's out there that we haven't really talked about, which is new movies? What new movies are out there that you're even thinking about going to see and are catching
going to see when we're allowed.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about going to movies right now, because going to the movies is not on the table. It's not.
I am
What about
so
streaming?
glad.
Streaming
I
movies,
am so
guys.
glad you brought that up. But for the simple fact
I'm
that
talking about going to the theater.
yes, but there are movies that are in theaters or that have been in theaters that they have pushed forward coming out of theaters to put them on digital streaming services, such as Frozen 2, such as Guns Akimbo, which is a movie that I talked about, which Karen was not interested in, but Greg and this guy, I feel like Larry would enjoy it too, have been moved forward and are moving to streaming services to help people with the cause that is going through, because movies do such a good job for us in an uplifting way of giving us something to do as a family.
Right.
And
experiencing so many other things around the world, and also other situations, and I think that's a cool thing. That's how we learn. Well, let me rephrase it. That is a way to learn. And find out more about things that we may not be aware of, and it gets us also, giving us the ability in some cases to catch up on other things. So I think it's kind of cool.
I'd like to posit a question to the group, just for those of you who actually have a crystal ball. I'm wondering what the long-term, once we get past this pandemic, which can't come too soon, in my opinion, will there be permanent changes in the movie industry? Because there's been a logjam about releasing movies direct to streaming at the same time that they're released in the theaters. And you have, like Steven Spielberg, who has said, a movie that streams is not a real movie. The only way that for awards consideration, the only way that a movie should be considered for an award is if it's released in movie theaters and viewed by in-house audiences. But now we have the situation where the only way, not the only way, but pretty much the most direct way and the best way right now to get audiences to see your movie has nothing to do with them being in a place. It has to do with you giving the movie to them, sending it to them, and making it available through streaming. I think one studio was making, was it Onward? I can't remember which movie. They were going to make it available for like $20. Like if you paid the $20 and you would have immediate streaming, you would have immediate streaming rights. I can't remember the name of the movie.
The last that I read, the last that I read about this is, what a lot of not the filmmakers, but the distributors, whether or not they're the people who sell the films elsewhere or people like AMC. AMC actually has a streaming service. A lot of people don't know that they do, but they do. And their number one subscriber are AMC theaters.
Mhm.
So, because they get all of their films or most of their films now digitally anyway.
Right.
So they're set up to do that. And AMC, for a pretty huge price, you can subscribe to that. Now, I don't even know exactly how to do that, but you can subscribe to their service, and any film that's out there you can pull in. But just because you subscribe to it, well, you also have to pay for the film as well. And
Mhm.
you've got to do both. So it's not cheap, but they're rethinking their model. They're
Right.
thinking right now that could they make more money per time period for a title? You know,
Right.
and it's not. It's based upon how many tickets are being sold. But think of a house as a ticket. So what would that price be? The average household might be 4 people. So you're going to charge $20 maybe, or $30
$80,
for
yeah,
that
yeah,
household to see it, and
Or more.
or more. And all of that will change. I think you're right in questioning that, Karen. Um, and there's other services out there as well. Sony Pictures, they can't seem to make up their mind what they're going to do. At first, they're going to say that they're going to have their own streaming service, and they kind of do,
Right.
and then they pull everything back. Well, something happened at the beginning of this year, and that a whole lot of contracts expired as far as distribution rights, and also a
Right.
whole lot of contracts expired regarding not distribution, but who owns what titles and what stories, et cetera, et cetera. And a whole bunch of films that were made a while back ago no longer have a copyright on them. Copyrights expired. So right now, everybody's kind of trying to figure out, what to do and how to do it. And by the end of the year, because of what we're seeing now, we'll probably start seeing the next steps in what's coming in the future.
And it's kind of
I just
ironic
can't
because
help
it's.
noticing. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Oh no, I was just saying it's kind of ironic because it's actually been going that way prior to this pandemic, also. And that's what we're seeing, and that's why a lot of these streaming services, i.e., the Netflix and the Hulus and the Amazons, are doing so well, because there still are a lot of people out there who would prefer not to necessarily go anywhere and enjoy things in the comfort of their home. So we've been going that route anyway. Now, obviously, because of the circumstances, it's probably, as we're alluding to some degree, push things forward even that much more, and they're going to be able to, in some cases, use this as that time frame to see, is this going to work or not.
We're kind of
so.
lurching, but we've been lurching towards this availability, but with a lot of pushback from some content creators who are like, directors, and producers who are like, no, we conceived of this movie being seen under certain circumstances. And you're talking about a medium which is more like director/producer driven than any other artistic medium. And so it's kind of ironic. Well, let me finish. In my opinion, anyway, it's kind of ironic the way in which the directors and producers insist on having control even after it leaves their hands, up into how you're seeing it. And it's like, I don't like the way you're seeing it, so you need to see it this way. And now I think we've reached a tipping point where it's like they can't control that. They're going to lose more and more control over that, because now it's like, if you insist on that control, then you're going to have a very small segment of audience watching your movie, and that'll be that.
And I think you're absolutely correct with that point. Take a look at, films are no longer made, or very few films are made to be shown on the big screen. One of the reasons why is that we all now have very different ratio aspects with our home flat screen televisions. And so we get we get that widescreen movie aspect ratio. We don't need to do pan and scan any longer to watch a movie for the old televisions. But, and I say this with a big but, is then try to watch a John Ford film in your living room. You miss most of it because it requires something that goes from one part of your eyesight all the way to the other, and it requires being able to just get that entire panoramic view. So unless you're sitting 2.5 feet away from your television, you're going to miss that.
Right.
Whether if it's a Western, or gosh darn it, watching a Marilyn Monroe movie in your living room doesn't give Marilyn Monroe justice. It's an entirely different film than watching it on a big screen. But so many, like my son, my 15-year-old son, he could care less.
Right.
So
Right.
we're also seeing a generational difference in what the expectations are for films.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah. It's like like on one of the podcasts I listen to, the person who does it is a rated person from the radio. I mean, his whole career has been in radio, and his biggest complaint is that young people have no idea what real music is supposed to sound like because they're listening on earbuds, and they have no idea what the studio musicians conceived of and all the work that they put into. And if they would only spend money on a decent pair of headphones, then they would get it. But instead, they're losing their hearing, and it's not even worth it because they're wearing crappy headphones. So they don't even know what music is. And it's like that disconnect.
I know this 20-year-old kid who's a bass player. That's what he does. He plays the bass. And he's all into this, what's happening now with music. And so I introduced him to Bootsy Collins. And at first he could care less. He goes, so what? It's been done before. You don't understand. He's the guy who did it.
Right.
It didn't happen before him. He's the guy who did it. And then about a year later, he comes up to, I see him again. He goes, I'm really digging this Bootsy guy. What was he thinking? It's awesome. And so they don't know. They don't know what they've been missing. And I'm not saying that our generation was the greatest generation as far as art or anything like that goes, because there's a lot of good stuff happening right now that's incredible.
Right.
Just that what I'm trying to get is things are changing so much and so quickly that people like you and me, we want to hold on to some of the better things that happened, and we want to share them, and we want to push them forward and say, but before you turn around the corner to do what the next cool thing is, watch this James Dean film, really.
Right.
But we keep having, I was going to say, we keep having the same conversation across generations, because in the 50s, it was like listening to a phonograph. That was no way to listen to music. The only way to actually hear music was to be in a concert hall and to have like live music play. If you were in a recording studio, well, you were an idiot. Except that the kids thought, well, I want to hear my music whenever I want to hear it. So, if having my record means I can hear my song when I want, I don't have to wait for a DJ to decide that it made it to his playlist. That's awesome. And so what if I lose some fidelity? I just want to hear my song.
And
same thing with the movies. I just want to see my movies when I want to see them. I don't care that I don't get VistaVision. I just want to see my movie on my phone, for crying out loud.
And for me, the cool thing is that rather than telling my son and the new kids around the block, and telling them that, oh, their stuff doesn't matter, it's the old stuff. What I tell them is, you have far more choices than I had. You can watch it here in the big screen. You can watch a film on your phone, and you can watch one of a million films, so I can only see one out of maybe 30 at any given time.
Right.
So it's, I think what I would like to see is pushing forward and championing the concept of choice. You have more choices, you have more ability, and you could see it on your phone, in your living room, or in the movie theater. Hopefully the movie theaters will be around for a while longer.
Copy that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming down to about 3 minutes left in this episode. Any parting thoughts or quips or comments? Wow, crickets. That was crazy. Crickets. Oh my God. You guys are just talking away and then all of a sudden nothing,
Way to kill the conversation, Greg.
which was my plan.
Mission accomplished.
But as a summation, maybe, there's so much out there, as Larry was alluding to, choices, and as Karen was saying, going from where we were to where we are now, and Steve saying, wish you guys would just leave me alone. But anyway, we want to say this: enjoy the things that we have out there. Enjoy the movies, whether you like older movies or newer movies. I think we should experience the newer movies as we can, but I think you should also experience the movies that have passed, because a lot of the movies that we see now are based off of and built off of the movies of the past and the work that's already been done. Have a blessed day. Have a blessed night. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. As for me and mine, we wish you blessings and hope that you'll find a movie that you enjoy this weekend.
And stay safe out there.
And stay safe out there and in here.
And in here.
All right.
Peace,
blessings.
everybody.
Have a good night, everybody. Oh, I think I have to use this control right here.